What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi back with my man Eric Sheets Haber. Happy Thursday. We are going to be doing the MLB show for you today. Sheets had some pretty sweet moves he made last night to save himself from a negative night and turn it the other way around in a big way. I didn't do such things. I was on the wrong side of favoring DeGrom over Cole on FanDuel. I was on the wrong side of having a lot of Yankee stacks with no Ishikawa, however you pronounce the last name, and only one DJ LeMahieu in one of my smaller buy-ins. Somehow I just got everything wrong in every possible, even the right spots I got way wrong. I got the wrong any players who scored any runs, and the wrong Baltimore guys. It was just a nightmare. But Sheets, you did some good things. Talk about it a little bit.
So I'll pull up my screen right away so we can kind of look at it. So this was the deal. So what we talked about in baseball yesterday was that there were two ways to go. For me, it was either going to be Cole and McCullers, or as Bobby correctly turned me on to, was that you could play Cole and DeGrom together and be able to make like good lineups, right? So that's what I opted to do. Is I went with Cole, DeGrom in pretty much everything. And the thing I also did right was I didn't make the same mistake that I made the day before, where I didn't go back to the Yankees, right, a couple of days before. So I said, I got to remember to do that. And then the first thing I did was that I played a bunch of freaking Yankees, and including Kiyogasha, Wade. I mean, like just everything, right? And Dylan Mayhew in some lineups and things like that. So that was a good, that was a good decision I made. And then there was one lineup that I'm like, I just can't have 100% of both these guys. So there was one lineup that I had. I said, okay, literally one out of 15 lineups, something like that. Yeah. And I said, okay, I'm going to pivot off of DeGrom so I can move up, so I can get up to, silly me, so I can get up to like Judge and guys like, right? And I said, okay, so I have exactly 63 or 6,300 left for pitcher if I do what I want to do. And I was between Gibson and the other, the guy from the Royals, right? And I'm like, this is easy because the Royals guy is going to be much more popular. So I'm going to go with the Gibson. And Gibson, and the only reason I did it, honestly, is because like whenever Bobby and I talk about it, he's like, Gibson actually has talent. He actually has talent. And for me, that was just kind of good enough, right, for 5,800. So I played Gibson, and Gibson literally went out 0.2% owned. Okay, I'm not even exaggerating, right?
It's so out of this world crazy.
And pitched a complete game shutout, okay, for 43 points. Now, it was actually kind of strange because what ended up happening was because I had extra money, I ended up, and this wasn't bad, but I was able to get up to Salvador Perez, who did fine, but I got up to him in the expense of Kiyogasha, right? So, and then but fortunately I was able to get Judge, who got 0, right? So it was a little bit annoying, but I'll tell you the thing that I was probably the most proud of. So usually what happens is when anything bad happens to me in the early games, whether it be baseball, basketball, whatever it is, someone gets injured, someone gets ruled out, someone gets hurt, whatever it is, someone gets blown up, I just bury my head in the sand. And I'm like, okay, that's the end of the slate, whatever it is. I'll go on and, just do something else. And for whatever reason, when DeGrom got pulled out of the game and I knew that he was going to end up at minus, I'm like, you know what? Screw it, right? So I went and I looked, and I remember the last thing we talked about was, they're actually playing the San Francisco game? Honestly, are they really playing it? I thought they were like, I thought they were going home or something. But I'm like, all right. So I went and I checked. I'm like, okay, they're playing. I'm like, there's just no way that people are going to play these guys, right? But then I thought, well, Bobby actually said that there are people that are actually talking about them. I'm like, you know what? I need to do something. So I just basically swapped out all of the good guys, so to speak, that I had, and I played like basically a full a full 5-man stack of the San Francisco guys instead, and basically even with DeGrom and even with a Judge 0. Ended up cashing for like 500 in that slap hitter, whatever it was. So I ended up with an 8th in the slap hitter and whatever this ended up to be with like 22nd. And it was only because I didn't give up. You know what I mean? So that was, and it's something I always do. I always give up. And I always even say to people, listen, make sure you're on to the late swap. Make sure that when when things aren't going well, that you can just up the variance in the later games. And I talk about doing it, but I never actually do it. And this time I finally did it, and only $500, and I still ended up probably. Well, actually, I did win because I don't know. I actually broke even because FanDuel. I played the monster in FanDuel. I think I scored a total of like 40 fantasy points or something. So I ended up like not losing, but whatever. But I was actually very happy with the I sometimes say the process was good, the execution was bad. Here, actually, the process was fair, but I thought the execution was finally good for me.
Yeah, man, awesome job. I mean, I can't tell you enough how great it is to make those late adjustments and actually have it doing something. It's really cool. And look, I always use the example where I had the who was it anyway, the pitcher for Tampa Bay.
Brinson.
Was that?
Brinson?
No, yeah. Well, that was when I played Brinson. Yeah. But I switched over to that because of my situation, and somehow it ended up getting me, won me like 25,000 where I should have lost, 1,000 or whatever. And it's just great. It just goes to show you that you're being given an advantage by having these late swaps available. So if you can make those swaps and when somebody gets blown up as a pitcher, especially a popular one, you can make other pivots and still have a chance at least at making a decent cash, if not winning the tournament.
Okay, so I already lied. I already told Bobby that we were going to make baseball quicker so that we can get to NFL and get to the other stuff. So let's get into it. It's only 6 games, so we can get through this.
Yep, let's do it. All right, so let's start it off with your boys, the Toronto and Yankees. I feel like we have the same thing every day, but Yankees, Tanaka, and the Yankees, I'm interested in both.
Yeah. So we have Dodgers at Coors, right? So
Dodgers at Coors, which means the Yankees get to be lowish owned? Maybe?
No, they won't be. I don't think so.
You think they're going to be that much more? Okay.
No, I think that Dodgers in Colorado would be incredibly owned. But
yeah, I mean the Yankees may be lowish owned.
No, I know that, but I just think the Yankees are going to probably be the next ones, right?
Yeah, probably.
So yeah, I do like the hitting there for a little bit, and with the pitching though, I have Tanaka as my, I guess, third favorite. In other words, he's probably my second, non-top tier guy. But he's not going to be particularly sneaky, But I do like him. I think he's definitely one of the pairings that I'm gonna look for today. Do you like him like as your best SP2 or no?
I don't know yet. I think there's like more upside than the perception. I actually think his ownership is going to be lower than people think. This is the kind of Blue Jays lineup where it's a little bit boom or bust. I wouldn't be surprised if he gave up a home run or two, but he works through innings so quick that I think you could see like a very easily see a six innings, 6 strikeouts, probably a win. Great line position to get a win. And maybe he gives up a run or two, but you're in good shape with 20-plus fantasy points. And I just see him as a pretty good bet for that. And I think there's upside on that even. I just don't think he's not going to go 7 innings or more, but he might go 7. He might go almost 7.
But with respect to the hitting, Stanton at 4,300 is kind of a joke, right? Is that?
Are we sure Judge isn't going to play today?
I really hope he doesn't because, for his sake, I don't know if you noticed this, but he hit a ground ball and he literally limped down the freaking line.
Okay, so I think we could say safely he's probably not going to play.
I don't know, and it was like really tough to watch. I actually tweeted, and thankfully I deleted it before. I'm like, that's the kind of effort that we're looking for from our freaking. And I didn't realize he was coming off the calf strain, whatever it was, right? So I deleted it before people jumped on my back, jumped on my case, whatever. But Stanton at 4,300 is, it's going to be mega chalk, I presume, but. Yeah, got to start with that. And then Hicks, I don't know if he gets in or what his lineup position is, but Gardner, Voit, you can play them all, really. But for straight value, I guess, those would be my favorite 4. Stanton, Hicks, Gardner, Voit.
Yeah, I agree. I sort of agree with I think Hicks would be my number 1.
Okay.
I still think coming off the injury, there's some you could worry a little bit. I have to say real quick that I think the Yankees again, and I know they've scored a bunch of runs again, and the teams always perform worse. And you've talked about it. Other people have talked about it. Not as much as you, but you've still man, I think this is my favorite stack by a good bit today.
Has to be, right?
I think I'm way higher on them than I am on anybody else. Just factoring ownership and everything in, and how the concentration of the Dodgers and. I don't know. I think it's my favorite stack. And I think there's the most power upside outside the Dodgers. again, we'll get into an interesting argument with Houston later in a bit because I don't know where I stand on that, and it's really hard to watch that team hit. But I mean, we've seen this happen a million times, and they could always break out of it, and they're cost nothing, and they're supposed to score a million runs, and they're playing against my favorite pitcher to pick on, or one of them. But this Yankee spot, I mean, you look at Chase Anderson, who I'm not even sure if he gets out of the third inning here. Now, of course, you could always get that weird fluky start where he does okay. He has not been good. He has not been. He hasn't had great control. He's been giving up hard hit balls, lots of power. I believe he's given up, basically an extra base hit every 2.5 innings. Not quite. No, a little about every 2 innings. A home run every 3. I'm into to the Yankees. I don't really know. I don't know if I'm going to end up that way, but I agree. I think Voit. It's the guys you said, but I really like Frazier.
Okay.
And I think he ends up lower owned. And he looks really good to me.
You could play Frazier instead of Gardner. You don't have to play Gardner.
Yeah, I think I would play Frazier over Gardner for sure. But the problem is Gardner's going to be cheaper, so you need the money. But honestly, I don't know that you're going to necessarily absolutely have to have the money. There's a pitcher we're probably all going to want to start all of our lineups with. But I think you can still squeeze these guys in pretty easily. And I love the stack. And I guess that the crazy part again, man, is that we've seen LeMahieu just have 2 of the biggest fantasy nights. Two just monster fantasy nights back to back, basically putting up, or no, what did he put up tonight? I don't know what he ended up with last night.
He put up a zillion points last night.
Again, right? So, and he's going to be lower owned because of that weird price, and that's going to make the stack a tiny bit lower owned because people don't want to stack without LeMahieu. So it's kind of, I just think the stack's going to be a little lower owned. Probably by the end of the day, people will get more on it, but I think it's going to be lower owned than it should be.
I mean, well, they got to give this kid another start, right? The catcher.
Maybe, I don't know. It's a good question.
What's the guy got to do? Hit more than 3 home runs?
I mean, I agree with you. I just don't know. I
Sanchez a lot. I mean,
it would be, yeah. But also, I think that if he does become mega chalk and he does play, you can just jump somewhere else.
I agree.
You don't need to play somebody who just came off 3 home runs.
You like him, LeMahieu, a little bit as a low owned spend up. You like
I like Voit a ton. Is my favorite. Anderson has been reverse listed in the past, and that's why him and Frazier, and then Hicks. Frazier is partly a price point thing. I just get the feeling that not a price point, ownership thing. I think I get the feeling he's going to be the lowest owned person in this stack. And even though he might not have hit 5 home runs like everybody else did for the Yankees lately, but he's hitting the ball really well. Is Urshela. So those guys, I think you see Frazier and Urshela as the lowest owned, which just makes me interested in them because I see them as being as good as anybody else, basically, except for Voit, LeMahieu, and Stanton. So that would be the way that I would prefer to stack it. Maybe, or Hicks. Hicks is going to be probably the most popular, but obviously a great play.
So for me, I mean, we go on to the next game. Is that all right? You want any Toronto hitters?
Hicks and Stanton, I should say. Yeah, let's go to the next one. Sorry, I don't want none of Toronto.
So for me, St. Louis, Pittsburgh. Again, I wasn't really going to do Houston. What I was going to do is either Cleveland or probably just a terrible game stack of the St. Louis Pittsburgh game as my next idea before I would do Houston. But it's probably just a crappy idea. But let me just review here. So the St. Louis guys I would have liked, and I might do it, is O'Neill. They're like the cheaper guys, really. Bader, if he plays. It's going to
be a popular stack, by the way.
Oh, well, okay.
Just not that.
Okay, Dijon, Goldschmidt, Edmund. So if they're going to be popular, maybe I don't need them, but they certainly make a certain amount of sense on this type of slate. And then on the other side, maybe these guys won't be as owned. Maybe the Pittsburgh guys. So I play Reynolds, Frazier, Polanco's my top guys, but then you're Brian Hayes, Josh Bell. So I think that both these teams, I guess, would be, I would say low upside in the wrong way, but just kind of like bad players. So I would take a shot with either of these teams actually as before I would do something like Houston.
So I like Hudson a lot.
Oh, look at that. All right.
This kid's got really good stuff. He hasn't been healthy this whole year, but he's starting to get back to it. You can see 2 out of his last 3 games was really solid. He didn't even pitch badly against the Cubs, particularly. Just the K rates has been a little bit down for him this year. But I think that's okay. He seems to be good overall. Pittsburgh is just not an offense that threatens you against righties. They've got a low total. You're going to get low ownership on Hudson. So he's kind of an interesting SP2 option to me as of right now. I don't know if I'm going to end up there, but I've seen this kid put up monster games in the past, and I could easily see him mowing through this Pittsburgh lineup, which I'm not really afraid of. So Hudson's interesting to me. It's him and I'm debating him and Tanaka a little bit. I love Goldschmidt. I think that as a one-off play, or the thing is, I like this team. I just think you're going to have fairly high ownership for a lousy hitter's park. Steven Brault, who I'll just keep mentioning. Again, he's given up now. He's given up 2 home runs this year. But for a guy who everybody wants to pick on every time and talks about how there's going to be 5 home runs against, he hasn't given up multi-home runs in his last 20 starts. Let's not go crazy with it. So I'm just going to go with that logic. I know it's not perfect. And the fact that you're going to have the most popular player on the slate, I'm guessing, is going to be Tyler O'Neill. But I love him. I just think that he'd be the guy I would most want. It's just he's going to be 1,000,000% owned. DeYoung, Edmund, Goldschmidt, those are my favorite plays on this side, but I don't want to get more than 2 of them in a stack because I think you're going to see a lot of ownership there.
I want to give a shout out to you for something else. I mean, there's just no way you even noticed this because you didn't even play the slate. But in the vein of you keep saying that Brault's not that bad, he doesn't give home runs. Now, I don't know if you noticed this, but you see who freaking just shut down Colorado yesterday in Colorado?
Who was that?
Mike Fiers.
Fiers, yeah, that's right. All right, I did right. I did notice that. I'm always aware when Mike Fiers has a game.
In an early, well, it was the early slate which you didn't play, but
no, I know. I've seen that.
Colorado, and obviously both sides of it were super chalky, and I think the final score is 3-1 or something. It was yep.
That's pretty funny. I mean, the thing is, I don't even think Steven Brault's a good pitcher. I just don't think that he's a guy who's as big a blow-up candidate as we treat him like he is, and it's just. I mean, we've seen this story so many times this year. And yeah, he may only pitch 3-4 innings and whatever, but so then you have got a bullpen game against sort of a shaky, sporadic offense in St. Louis. They could get there. I'm just personally finding other routes today.
So obviously, if you go on to the next game,
yeah.
Obviously, DeGrom was a good play yesterday, and obviously there's something wrong with him, right? And which is why I got pulled out of the game. Doesn't change the fact that the Philadelphia lineup is kind of sucky right now. And I think that you could go with Seth Lugo, actually, as an SP2. Probably not my favorite, obviously. But if, for example, Tanaka gets really, really popular or something, I think Lugo is just fine. I'm not going to – again, depends how many lineups I play or whatever. But if you play a bunch or if you need to do something – I don't even know if it's going to be that different. I mean, how different can you be on a 6-game slate, I suppose. But I do think that he's a decent player for the same reasons – not the same reasons. But for a similar reason why we thought DeGrom was a good play, Philly's lineup was just is toast right now, presuming those guys are still out. They put up runs against the bullpen yesterday, whatever. But I have no problem with that. I didn't have any real interest in any of the hitting from this game, and that was pretty much my entire analysis. I didn't. As far as I got to talk about what's his name, right? I just didn't think I could get to Nola because I like Bieber so much more. So that's just the only reason I wasn't going to play.
Yeah.
You gonna make me play them both? No.
No,
right?
I think you definitely can play them both.
Oh.
I don't want to.
Oh, okay.
I don't want either of the pitchers in this game personally. I don't understand Lugo love. It's driving me a little bit nuts. Are you?
Oh, what do I know? Okay, I didn't think so. All right.
I don't know. I'm looking at early projections, and I know they're going to be wrong. They've got to be. But for him to be projected to be the second highest owned pitcher on the slate.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah.
What do I know? I thought McCullers was going to be 50%. What the hell do I know?
No, but you were right about McCullers with the IL thing. You really were. People, and honestly, you know what hurt him? Everybody on every other show, because I did listen more than I usually do, and they were all talking about how they were worried that he wasn't right. Yeah. So that kind of stuff just takes on a steam of its own, and people are like, well, I don't really need to do that, which is why I played him on FanDuel. That was my one good move.
Yeah, that was strong. He was 7% on FanDuel.
Oh, yeah. He was like nothing. And he was, he actually made a lot more sense to me on FanDuel than he did on DraftKings because of what he opened up. But, all right, so this is where I'm struggling with this game. So you have Mark Wegner behind the plate, who's you could argue that he's 2 or 3 in terms of best hitters umpires, worst pitchers umpires.
Okay.
The total of this game I feel is off. I feel like honestly, I have some interest in these Phillies.
Oh, okay, good.
They're super cheap, so you can use them as
popular, especially.
What's that?
If Lugo's popular, especially. Yeah,
the thing is, I don't think that these guys. I think these guys will be in the non-Lugo lineups. You've got now multi-position eligibility for Alex Baum, who's going to be batting third at 2.8. You've got Scott Kingery, who could get moved up in the order even, but probably bats around 6th or 7th, and he's 2.2. This is a very easy stack to make. It's one I could actually see really paying off. You know, it's funny because I didn't want to play. I said, 6 games. I don't need to play. I like the big slates. You know, I'm not really as into today. I'm having a little bit of a rough go in baseball. Maybe I'll skip it. And as I look at this more and more, I'm wondering if maybe I just go all out and make a big script today, because I really like the contrarian things today. I love Didi. He's one of my favorite plays at shortstop on the slate. He might be my favorite play at shortstop, considering the ownership and everything. I love Bryce Harper. I am not afraid of attacking Lugo in this bullpen at all. I don't know that I want to fully stack it, but if you mix in with those other guys, a nice little, maybe a Bohm, Kingery, or Knapp, who's, by the way, 2.4 and probably batting 6th or 7th also, and you play one of those guys or two of those guys with either Didi or Bryce, you got a nice little 3-man, or McCutchen if you want to make it a 4-man. I don't think I'll go all the way out on there because there's so many good, like the Yankees are great, the Dodgers are great, and Houston's great, but I do think that using these guys as plugins and then maybe including a Didi or spending up on a Bryce who's not, like, you're going to get 0 ownership on him in a good matchup. This is not a bad matchup. So I'm kind of into these Phillies, but I would prefer using maybe 1 to 3 more than not trying to get too much more than that.
Yeah, I will make a note of that. I like McCutchen is probably my favorite.
This is basically a bullpen-ish game if they can get – Lugo has been pitching 5 innings lately, but we don't know what he's going to pitch. He hasn't pitched more than 5 1/3 all year, so to use him today, to me, is very speculative and probably just not something I'm going to end up doing.
Okay, you want to move on?
I want to move on, but I do want to just mention this is a spot where we probably should be looking at some Mets bats because I don't like this matchup at all for Aaron Nola. You get these lefties in there, and these are pretty decent lefties. These lefties who are really good against righties, especially, like Conforto. I mean, the biggest problem these lefties have had is hitting lefties over the course of their career, except for McNeil. But Conforto, Nimmo, Cano. Actually, Cano's been good in this past too. Dominic Smith. These are all guys who rate to be really, really good against righties and aren't going to get played. So I'm not saying don't stack these guys up. But using any of these guys as one-offs at low ownership, sort of like the Philly guys, but I would just say to play one of them. You're going to get them at no ownership. So I think it's a great one-off play to use one of the lefties from that game, specifically maybe Nimmo, Cano, or Conforto.
Okay, you ready to move on?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna have 100% Bieber. I just literally just don't see any reason not to. Okay, you want to have a reason not to? Like, if you really want to stack up the Dodgers and you know what I mean, and Colorado and Houston if you like them, sure. Play Valdez with Tanaka or something like that, and then just rock the house. But I mean, it's the best matchup. It's the best pitcher. It's just, I'm just so I'll be different somewhere else, and someone else could, maybe he'll get pulled out with a hamstring in the second inning, whatever it is. But that's just what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it probably. I might end up maybe going 50% him on FanDuel and trying 50% Valdez over there just because. But on DraftKings, I'm gonna be playing 100% of him. And also the Cleveland guys, the Cleveland hitters, I think are really, really strong here. Again, depending on who's in and all this stuff, but you can get Naquin again cheap. If Josh Naylor, he gets in the lineup at 2,300. Carlos Santana, these are the cheaper guys. And then you could mix in the good players. Ramirez, Lindor, Reyes, whoever. So I actually got to them before I got to Houston. But you can talk me off it, but that's just my initial take.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to play Cleveland bats tonight. I actually like Casey Mize again as a weird pivot.
Okay.
It's interesting to me that this kid, one of the top prospects, in the system. Listen to the matchups he's had so far. So he had the White Sox, Cubs, Twins, and then White Sox again. And by the way, just had his best outing. Finally looking a little better in that game against the White Sox. He struggled with a little bit with his command, and in doing that, he's ended up leaving more balls over the plate. Not giving up power or anything really that much. He's more just giving up, base hits. But this is actually probably a better matchup for him than he's faced so far. He's got good strikeout stuff. The Twins, the Indians are a very streaky team because they've got a real good top. And you know what? With the way he's played this year, Carlos Santana, I don't even include him anymore. So I'm going to say they have a really good top 3 in their order, and they have a guy in Franmil Reyes who I like for home run power sometimes. But I would say that I think Casey Mize is actually in play as a real spend down. If you wanted to go really, really weird and play 2 pitchers at spend down and fade Bieber's 30 points, I don't think that's the worst idea in the world. But I'm probably going to load up and have almost 100% Bieber. I don't really, other than, I mean, it's just a game theory reason is not to play him. And I just announced that I like some other, non-chalky plays. So I think that I can get away with just playing Bieber. But I don't mind Casey Mize here, and I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he had most pitches last game. Furthest he went into a game. The guy's got good stuff. I do like to bet on these guys because they could blow up. I just find so many stacks that are much more appealing. People can play the Tyler Naquin and have the same Luplow thing. I just think you're really capping your ceilings when you do this stuff.
Okay.
And I would err with guys like Tyler O'Neill although you could argue similar things with Tyler O'Neill, but I think he's got a better chance or at 2.8 or one of the Philly guys like Baum at 2.8, I would prefer over a guy like Naquin at 2.6. But if you want to use anybody on this side if I was going to use like a one-off, it's always Jose Ramirez for me these days, especially because this kid is going to give up stolen bases left and right. So
that's interesting.
If Jose Ramirez gets on, he's stealing a base. I'll put that out there right now as a bet, unless it's like a really weird situation or whatever. He's almost guaranteed going to try and steal a base, in my opinion. But then it would be, he's so expensive. So I think the most realistic plays are probably Reyes. I just said not to play Naquin, but Reyes or Naquin. But the one thing is, like, if you're going to play Naquin or Naylor, I think Naylor has more power than Naquin does. I don't know that it's always proven out because he hasn't really had a full healthy time. Then he was on San Diego and he couldn't get playing time. But I believe in what I've heard about him as being a power guy, and I wouldn't mind taking a shot on Naylor, especially if he was a little higher in the order. But the fact that, like, Naquin will probably be significantly more owned than him, and he's 2.3K, he's cheaper, and he's probably got more power, I think he's the guy I would side with.
Ready for the next one?
Yes, sir.
Texas, Houston. Okay, so Lyles against Valdez. First in the pitching side, I think Valdez is kind of clearly the SP2 or SP1, depending on how you go after it. I think he's a great play on FanDuel. It's just everything you kind of want. He's got strikeout upside. He's projects well and everything else, and he's going to be really popular. But it's the way it goes in pitching sometimes, I suppose. So with respect to hitting, I did change my mind sort of. Like I think that Altuve, Springer, and Brantley, for example, are all just really, really good plays. They're so yeah, these guys are really, really good, and I maybe I do equate these guys just as much as the Yankees now that I'm thinking about it. I'm not sure. So for me to just say I'm just not playing Houston, I don't know. I'll have to see about that. The one thing I will say is that I am gonna be playing, and this is coming. I'm gonna be playing some lineups with Gallo. I'll be playing some lineups with maybe a Gallo Solak or something like that, just in case. In my non-Valdez lineups, which are not going to be that many of them, but in the non-Valdez lineups, I'll probably end up doing that just for leverage. So again, Gallo, Solak, those are the 2 guys. I'm not going to go for a full freaking Texas stack or anything like that, but I do like those 2 guys.
Yeah, it's hard not to have some interest in Valdez.
You're not that interested though. You're not like. You don't think he's just like definitely the next guy, huh?
I'm worried about if I don't play him at all that he's the guy that could crush me, yes. But I don't know that he's automatic.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I could see Hudson being –
You're really into the Hudson. That's very interesting.
You save a little bit of money. You differentiate your build just by doing that alone. And I believe in Hudson's talent. And I'll just mention, I know it's been tougher matchups, but – as good as Valdez, as good a stuff as he has, it's not like this guy is unflappable or a lock to always. He was really consistent for a while. It was against the Angels and Dodgers, so we shouldn't hold it too much against him. But the funny part is, last time he pitched against the Texas team, they actually did a pretty good job against him. They got some hits. He walked 3 guys, and they just didn't. They got a few runs. but he still struck out 8 over 7. I think it's a high strikeout matchup for him, so I do like him. But if the ownership's too high, I could easily see Dakota Hudson outscoring him today. Or even if they're close, differentiating your build and going lower is an interesting way to go. But yeah, I'll have some Valdez. I just don't know if I'll be quite with like 50% like the field might be.
Okay.
I wish I could like the Texas. I like Solak as a one-off. That's it. I don't really have I'm okay with Gallo. It just feels weird to use an outfield spot in a lefty-lefty matchup against a good pitcher.
Right. But you can play Tavares if you want.
Yeah. He doesn't excite. He's okay. He's another one of those cheap options, and he's actually not going to be high owned. So that's actually a good idea. Maybe Tavares is another one of the. That's what that's my thing. And I know like you played a bunch of left play yesterday, and it was fine. And there's nothing wrong with these things. I like to try and get these like lower owned, weird guys rather than sticking with the popular guys who are going to get pinch hit for. And Tavares is not going to have that happen. So I would put him ahead of the guys like Naquin.
Okay.
Maybe not quite as high as Naylor just because he doesn't have as much power. But anyway, that's sort of where I'm at. Ready to go to the final?
Yeah, so the best plays are on the slate of the Dodgers. I mean, if there's not an ownership game, I mean, and if Mookie will
in the lineup for the Dodgers tonight even is the question, huh?
I guess, as usual, but Mookie, Will Smith, Turner. I'll tell you, who needs to sit? You know who needs the freaking day of rest? It's freaking Cody.
Yeah.
He needs one. And this is and Freeland is sneaky. You know what I mean? Like he's it's not exactly, he pitches in Colorado a lot and he can hold people down. It's not like he's a lock to give up 10 runs in this game. But Turner's a good play, Will Smith's a good play, Betts is a good play. If you're going to play Dodgers, I guess I know what you're going to say. I mean, I guess you want to play the lefties and hope they're not as high owned or something like that. I don't know.
Usually, so I got a different take on this game, and this is going to come back to bite me when the Dodgers score 15 runs today. So I'm going to make the case against playing any Dodgers.
I wasn't getting to that's what I was getting to. I was getting to the fact that they're the best plays, and I'm not playing any of them. I don't think.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. Well,
I mean, like literally none of them. So maybe like one like as one off or something like that. But I'm not stacking this. Who needs 50% ownership on a 6-game slate? Who needs it?
Right. The only question is, can you maybe get some guys at lower ownership in certain spots? Like, first of all, if Cody's in the lineup today, he's going to be low owned. It's going to be at the bottom of the lineup in a lefty at 5.7. There's no question. So I don't care. By the way, he's actually not swinging the bat as badly as it might look. He's actually got. Yes, I think he's got hits in 5 of his last 6. It's just not been home runs or anything. He's just, he's not having a great go for him. Seager, people might play. I want to point out, so I've watched this matchup a number of times. I'm obviously a Dodger fan. I also am the guy who always sneakily says why I don't think Freeland is that bad of a real life pitcher, and I don't. What he's good at is he's a good pitcher for Colorado. He can keep the ball on the ground. So what you'd be looking for against him is guys who can elevate the ball. Now, if you look at the Dodgers' history against him, he's actually been pretty damn good against them in terms of limiting power. I mean, 4 home runs they've hit off of him in 130 at-bats on the projected lineup tonight, if Pollock's in the lineup. And Pollock is the one guy who's really, he's 9 for 23 with a couple home runs, a triple, and a double. That's a pretty good line for, 400 average or whatever. Seager's only had 13 at-bats. He's 7 for 13. He's been good. Turner's 12 for 26. But these guys haven't hit home runs. 12 for 26 for Turner, but no home runs. I mean, I can use that as a reason to try and find a way to fade someone if I absolutely have to. And overall, as a team, Dodgers are hitting 212 against him, and their walk rate is lower by about 1 per 9 than it is on average. So these are the excuses for why you wouldn't play a chalky Dodgers stack on a 6-game thing. They're still probably going to score the most points. They're still going to score the most runs tonight, most likely. All these guys I just mentioned and talked about, maybe they don't hit home runs off them. That's all just random. There's still a smallish sample size. But if you want to try to find excuses, that would be the excuses I would look for.
I don't know. It seems like there's a freaking humidor in freaking Colorado recently. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's
Yep. I mean, I don't know what it is, Ben, but I'll tell you what. I don't think we need to look at like the Dodgers. Anytime they're facing anybody, you're going to be in play. So they're like the fact their run total is actually only 6.5 is surprising to me. I thought it would be higher. after saying all that, the preferred plays, I think that, you got Cody at low ownership. The guy who actually I think probably is the best play of the lefties would be Muncy, because he does elevate the ball. He is a fly ball hitter. He does pop it in the air. And that's the kind of matchup where against a guy like Freeland, I could see him getting there. Chris Taylor is another guy that does, and he's probably going to be low owned because he's expensive and no one likes to play Chris Taylor. So those would be the guys. The really popular plays like Will Smith at probably like 40% ownership tonight.
Okay.
You can probably get away from. If Gavin Lux is in the lineup and you do want to make a stack, you can include the guys I mentioned and then play Gavin Lux, who'll be very low owned at a high price at probably batting ninth.
I like the Colorado guys more than, you know what I mean? I think the Colorado guys are fine.
I honestly, basically, just to be completely blunt, I don't generally find anybody I like to stack against the Dodgers, and it's not because of being a homer. It's I just think that I think first of all, I think Urias is a really good pitcher.
Oh, okay. I know you thought that.
And I also think the Dodgers have a good bullpen. They do weird things that hurt probably. Geez, why did my computer just freeze over here? Geez, we're still going good, right?
Yeah, you're fine.
That's really weird. My Chrome isn't working over here, and it says I have no internet. So it's working, I guess. It's still showing.
We're over something. I don't know what it is.
All right, bizarre. I don't know what just happened, but
I don't know. Like Arenado's a one-off. I mean, like I don't know.
Arenado, yeah. I don't know that he's healthy, but sure. And Story would be the guy for me.
Okay, not as excited. Okay.
Just not quite like I don't know.
I'm with you. I'm all for fading the chalk.
If somebody told me the Dodgers are going to be low owned tonight, of course I'd be interested. But I'm not going to play these high owned. I mean, it's pretty telling, by the way, that Colorado has less than a 5-run total in Colorado. So I wouldn't go crazy trying to stack up this team. Now they have the extreme values like Diaz and Tapia, which are fine, like the 3.1 and 2.5. You can use those. I actually think that Diaz may make more sense than Smith. You're going to get a lot less ownership. He's 2.5 versus 4.6. That might be something interesting. Matt Kemp is something interesting who might not be owned as much, 3.3K. Those would be the guys I'd look at along with Story. But I don't really have interested too much in the other guys. And I really think that something must be up with Arenado. I don't think he'll be that owned tonight. He just doesn't look right to me.
Yeah, I've played him and he doesn't look right.
Something's up with his shoulder. Like he looks uncomfortable even when he fields and when he swings. So,
all right. So
Kevin Pillar, you can play these guys. Like I just don't, and their prices make you want to play them. So I think they're going to actually have higher ownership than people think. I'm just going to remind everybody that Urias is a pretty good pitcher, and at times is very, very tough. I actually want to take a quick look while we're doing the sheets. She'd say something while I pull up Urias's.
Yeah. So I'm going to start summarizing mine. How about that?
Okay. How about that? Yeah.
So Yankees. I was about to say Rockets, Yankees, Astros, Cleveland. Again, I'm just not playing the Dodgers. Yankees, Astros, Cleveland, and do a little more work on St. Louis Pitt, although I just don't know if you need it. So for me, the Yankees, Astros, or Cleveland will be the three teams I stack. Pitching is going to be 100% Bieber and some Valdez, and in the non-Valdez lineups, I'm going to go with those two one-offs or maybe two-man from Texas, the Solak and Gallo. And with the SP2s, when I'm not using Valdez, it's going to be either Tanaka, Lugo, or I guess that was it. Either Tanaka or Lugo.
Yeah. I like that. My pitchers are Bieber, Hudson, Mize, Valdez, and Tanaka.
Bieber's Mize would be a good one for you. That would be nice.
Yeah, Mize is the crazy low owned one. That is, if I do stack the Dodgers, maybe that's the one I use Mize in. But I still think there's upside for him. I think that if I had to, in order of like your best expected value would be Bieber or Valdez, but I'm starting to lean this Hudson way. And maybe I'll get talked off of it later. Maybe I'll find another route. By the way, I'm going to throw out a little thing that's about a different sport. I got to give you a shout out because you got me looking into Kokrak yesterday, and
yes.
I did a deep dive onto the course, a lot of course comparisons, which I probably should have done before our show. But I did a lot more into it with him, especially, and I ended up playing him 30% higher, a little over 30%. So he was a nice little start there. I appreciate that one.
-2. We will take that and run.
As long as you say minus anything, I'm thrilled. You know what I mean?
What's the cut going to be? +5? What is it going to be?
No, I mean, we got a lot of guys doing well. I mean, I actually,
Okay.
I have Brendan Todd is one of my chalky, my 30%ers. He's two under. Rory's 3 under. I've got Rory at 30%. You know, we're just, you know, they still got a lot of guys to play. So I'm actually excited about golf. But guys, this is gonna be a fun baseball slate. I think the hitting, to sum up for me, is Sheets already did his. I'll take the Yankees, Houston, and parts of Philly, with maybe a one-off or something from St. Louis. But those will be my core guys. And then I'll throw in. I might look. There might end up being a Dodgers stack just here or there because I can play a couple. I can play like Mize Hudson pitching combination and play chalk and probably get away with it if I get my ceiling games out of my pitchers or even my medium ceiling games. But I think overall, your best bet is to try on a 6-game slate to get away from the chalk, even if it is the best hitting team in baseball in Coors.
All right. So, hey, guys, make sure you come back because we're going to do a football one. And don't forget, since I was lucky enough to have a lucky lineup last week, I'm officially the resident expert now.
You are. By the way, you're becoming the expert about baseball, too. I need to start winning some of these slates. You keep taking the information we talk about, you putting it to much better use than I am.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, guys. Hey, good luck out there for Sheets. I'm Bobby saying we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards.